enjoyed. So we're going to start out with Guignon.
Yes.
Chloe, why don't you, in my old set, why don't you tell us a little bit about Monsieur Jean-Pierre Guignon?
Yes. So we can't talk about Guignon without speaking about Leclerc, of course. They were bitter rivals, or at least characterized to be in all of the histories. Both of them, they were separated by 5 years, and they were both actually, Guignon was a native Italian. He was born in Turin, and he studied with the same teacher as Leclerc. Louis XV hired them both to be concertmaster at his orchestra. And actually, Leclerc retired within 1 month because he would not play second to Guignon.
Yeah. So the essential sort of information is that he's not French, he's Italian, but he lives in France, and he's under royal patronage. In fact, he was a very close friend of Maria Leczinska, the queen. And what did he write?
Guignon?
Yes. He's essentially what?
He's
Yes, yeah. He was the incomparable violin sort of master at the time. And we're going to hear what?
This is Les Folies d'Espagne. It's based on the famous Folia grand bass.
Yeah. And where does that come from?
Sorry?
Where does that piece come from? La Folia. Is it French?
No.
No, it's a bass, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a ostinato bass. Yeah, very famous. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. How would you describe this particular kind of music?
Wild. I mean, it means madness. So.
Wild. When that's synonymous on the violin with popular appeal. Yeah. Wild, gypsy playing. Yeah. Sort of. Yeah. Yes. And what is it exactly? It's for 2 violins, or how many?
It's for 2 violins. But there is an option, actually, Guignon writes that a 3rd violin could join us and play the bass line.
Important, because in these 3 pieces we're going to listen to, the Guignon and the Telemann and the Couperin, the options are multiple in terms of how many instruments or what kind of instruments playing. And what would the 3rd instrument play? He or she were not here.
He actually specifies at the top of the violin.
Yes, he talks about what part? It's an essential part. He says, un 3e violon pourra jouer le simple pendant que les 2 autres joueront les compliqués. That means he plays what? He plays the bass. Yeah, good. So, on we go. There wasn't enough. We could have heard some more. This is the kind of piece, if you played this on the street corners, anywhere in New York, you'd have a lot of people listening to it. It's easy to listen to. It's popular music, essentially, because there's nothing much aside from virtuoso violin playing and over a very simple harmonics of the bass. And it just gets, as you said, wilder and wilder. It says a lot about France. It says a lot about how the violin's been sort of evolving since the early part of the 17th century. A few things to talk about, or just to information. Is this a manuscript? Is it a grade edition? Is it published?
It is a first edition.
What does first edition mean? It's engraved, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means that it's going to be sold. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and it's going to be sold to a lot of people. Yes. Yeah. And this is something we're going to be able to tie into Telemann and to Couperin as well. Why do you engrave an edition in the 1730s? Well, it's to make money, but also to provide happiness to a greater number of people. And they're called amateurs, essentially, you see. Did amateurs try to play this music? Yes, probably not as well as you did. So it was not only used by professionals, but it was used by a very large number, an increasingly large number in the 18th century, of non-aristocratic, not simple folk by any means, but I mean, you know, it wasn't court music. This is very important. This was probably, all of the stuff that he published was because essentially this music has a wide appeal. Now, let's talk about your performance. Are you happy with it? Yeah. There's a fair amount of input on your part, isn't there? I mean, what I was looking at didn't correspond altogether with the notes that I was looking at, or the rhythm that I was looking at, or the rubato playing that I was looking at. So, yeah, these were decisions that you two made, didn't you? Yeah. I liked them. Yeah. I like them because essentially it gives more personality to the piece, and it also is something which I think all, well, especially students at the Juilliard in early music should understand, that the personal input, your input, is far more important than, let's say, a piece of Shostakovich or Pierre Boulez or what have you. You know, when I was teaching a while back, I would take a piece, a ballad print of 1670 of Atis, and then pull out the Maître sans Maître, one page of Pierre Boulez. There were 72 indications of tempo, phrasing, dynamics on one page of the Boulez, and 0 for Lully, which means that, yeah, and it's the same thing here. Do we have dynamics?
No,
generally
very
not.
few.
Very few, just sort of loud and soft stuff, yeah? Yeah. What else?
Occasionally, articulation markings.
A few articulation patterns, yeah. But that's pretty small bit, you know. Yeah. So, yes, what I thought your input was very, very effective. Yeah. Do you play it differently every time?
It's been different most times.
That too, of course, is something which is an important part of the early music aesthetic in the 18th and even the 17th century. Essentially, spontaneity. If this piece can sound like it was written the day before yesterday, you've won, you see. If it starts to smell of archaeology or musicology, it starts to smell a little bit musty, as if, you know, yes. I remember that treatise back in 1687 that says, you must, yes, that kind of thing, you know. You can go very far on this. And that's one of the nice things about early music. You can pretty much do what you want, in a sense. By the way, it's something I talked about with Ben as well a couple of days ago. We were talking about the fact that there are a lot of visiting artists, specialists. And I say to myself, and I said to Ben, it's a good thing, even, you know, because essentially there's many ways of playing this piece. As there are people who, you know, interpreters or people who are going to coach you in it, you know. Yes. And that's important too. Spontaneity is individuality. It's, you know, your personality and what you've got to have a framework, of course. You can't just do anything, you know. But within those limits, there's a lot to do. Yeah. I know Chloe because she played with me this summer, and we played actually an extraordinary serenata of Handel a while back at the Morgan Library, which was, I think, one of my most favorite moments in 2018. Don't know you as well, but it's a very nice duo. Do you have anything to say aside from appreciation? Yeah. You're setting a very high standard right now. Are you going to stay around? Good. Okay. Let's go on.